Joining me now is Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. She is a member of the House Ways and Means and Small Business Committees. And Congresswoman, your colleague, Congressman Jimenez, was here last hour, and he is calling on Kim Cheadle to resign. Do you want her to resign? Should she resign?
Well, look, do I want her to resign? Yes. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that when she says mistakes were made, gaps were had, lies now since have been. She's going to be in front of our committee today, in front of Homeland Security and Oversight. They're going to ask questions. I was just with Chairman Mark Green last night visiting. He is on his way to the site now with other members of the Homeland Security Committee to try to get down the answers. But we know for certain mistakes were made. We also know that they did not properly utilize local law enforcement. They had 3 Secret Service post standards. To give you an idea, they only had 3 there. Even though they knew and they had already gotten information that Iran had sites on assassinating President Trump, they only had 3 post standards there. To give you an idea in comparison, we know through whistleblowers that Jill Biden the same day at another event had 12. They gave her 4 times as many, even though they knew that there were serious threats on President Trump's life. So, yeah, we are as a Congress, but specifically Homeland Security and Oversight, are looking to get to the bottom of this. Because, look, you cannot have a Secret Service that is politicized as seemingly this shows a perfect example of.
Well, President Biden, obviously the news of the day yesterday. I want to move to that with you. Certainly everyone is back to work today, Congresswoman, and all of you, you and your colleagues. So he drops out of the 2024 race. But House Speaker Mike Johnson's calling for him to resign from office immediately. And here's what Johnson wrote. He said, if Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he's not fit to serve as president. And today, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace is going to introduce a resolution that calls on Kamala Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment and assume the duties of acting president. Congresswoman, what are your thoughts on all of this business that is going to be coming before the House today? Both the comments from the Speaker as well as this move by Nancy Mace.
Look, we've got our hands full trying to hold this administration and the agencies accountable, without a doubt. But none of this should be as a shock, as a surprise. For the last 4 years, we've seen Biden in constant decline. Well, they've been covering for him because he's been a useful idiot. Well, now that he's no longer useful, they're looking at the poll numbers. They're trying to push him aside and put somebody else in place. But the same policies that this administration has carried forward, regardless of who is on the ticket, are going to continue if they get reelected. Policies that have led to 100,000 people who have died as a result of fentanyl, the young women across our country who have been raped and murdered because we've got millions of people in our country illegally. The working families right now that are suffering through 20% inflation as a direct result of financial policies, the attack on American energy. Those policies remain in place as long as you've got a Democrat in the Oval Office.
Well, and I'm going to get to the border with you because I definitely want to talk to you about that. But real quick, don't you think that that the investigation should now how do we look into who was covering for Joe Biden for 3 years? 3 years. I mean, we are now finding out, thanks to some stellar reporting by the Wall Street Journal, that these concerns from colleagues in the House, people that you work with every day in Washington, they were in a meeting with Nancy Pelosi and President Biden where they were talking about the infrastructure bill and trying to get that through in October of 2021. And they were concerned because he was losing his train of thought. He was stumbling. He was mumbling. And they were pushed aside. The White House, has created this bubble around Joe Biden. But how do we get answers as to this? Frankly, it's a cover up of a man in decline, which the nation finally saw for itself in all of its, honesty on the debate stage. That's when America woke up and said, this is not okay. He is not okay.
I think that's when Democrats woke up and said, he is not okay. I think Republicans, for, again, the last 4 years have seen it. I think the public, I think our enemies, foreign and domestic, have seen it, which is why they've taken advantage of it. This is not, the debate was not the first time that we saw him in decline. We saw him bumbling. And yes, there has been a cover-up, but it's not just been from the White House. It's not just been from my colleagues in the House. We're talking about media. Everybody who's been around him has been making excuses for this man because he was useful to them. But at this point, we still don't know who's been running our country for the last 3.5 years. And I don't know what honestly, that we'll ever truly find out. But we know that this was a concerted effort to cover up for all of his gaffes, for his tripping, for his not being able to finish a sentence, for him not even being able to read a teleprompter. This has been going on for years. And again, the destruction that it has caused to our country as a direct result has been horrific. But it's not just him. It's the policies that were put in place while he was president.
And the border, let's talk about the border. And that's obviously very dear to you. So New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is going to introduce a resolution today that condemns Kamala Harris's role as Joe Biden's border czar. She says that Harris and every elected Democrat owns the border crisis. Trump's chief super PAC already did release this ad, and it goes after Harris. Watch.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead.
Congresswoman, your reaction to that?
Look, she has absolutely been there. She's been the border czar from day one. She's the vice president. She can't sit here and just blame Joe Biden for mistakes that were made on the border, mistakes that allowed, nearly 13, 14 million people into our country illegally. We have had innocent women who have been raped, murdered as a direct result of people who entered this country who should never have been here. And Harris, as the border czar who could barely ever even get down to the border, should have been down there, should have been talking to Customs and Border Patrol, should have been talking to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, saying, what tools do you need? What policies are in place? What policies do we need to remain in place? What policies can we add? She never did any of that. This is just as much on her as it is on President Biden.
Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, welcome back to Washington. And thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we will see you very soon.
Great. It's good to see you, Cheryl. Thank you.